Hello and welcome back to an exciting third round match between Ramesh Babu Praggnanadha playing as white and his opponent, chess legend and a former world chess champion Magnus Carlsen. Now what is so exciting about this game is that Praggnanadha outplayed Carlsen from the opening until very precise endgame, which he razor sharp won against former world chess champion and endgame maestro Magnus Carlsen. Truly an incredible performance by Ramesh Babu Praggnanadha. Exciting game is on our hands, so without further ado, we will go straight into it. Praggnanadha opened the game with e4, we have c5 for Magnus Carlsen, so he decided to play sharp with Sicilian defense, knight to f3, we have e6 on the board, d4, open Sicilian, c takes on d4, knight takes on d4, and right now we have a6 for Magnus Carlsen defending this square from this knight. Bishop d3 developing move, we have queen to c7, all standard theory, and right now we have castle for Praggnanadha. Magnus continues his development with knight to f6, we have queen to e2, developing another move and then preparing connection of the rooks. We have d6 for Magnus Carlsen, simply trying to protect these central squares, and right now Ramesh Babu Praggnanadha plays c4 with the idea to even strengthen more control of d5 square, and also knight c3 is another way to develop your knight. After c4 this is always recommended and much better option. We have knight b to d7 for Magnus Carlsen, Praggnanadha continues with knight to c3, and right now we have knight to e5 for Magnus Carlsen. Looks scary, looks like Magnus Carlsen will gain a bishop pair, but Praggnanadha is not worried about that. He continues with h3, so he doesn't want to allow Magnus Carlsen to jump on this g4 square. We have b6 for Magnus, preparing bishop b7 move, f4 for Praggnanadha, simply asking question to this knight, where will you go, my friend? Will you take my bishop or not? Knight takes on d3 is the right way to go. We have queen picking up on d3 and bishop b7 developing move for Magnus Carlsen. And right now we are already in the critical part of the position. As you all know, when the opponent's king is in the center, you should always try and open up the position, exactly which Praggnanadha did with the move f5. Simply a good move, because right now you have to make a decision. Taking this, of course, is not a possibility. I mean, it is, but after knight takes on f5, your position is really hard. You cannot put your bishop on e7 because this pawn on g7 is hanging. The way to continue is maybe rook to c8 by computer, and then after b3 to maybe play bishop e7, but this is not a possibility. After b3 maybe try g6, but then we have knight to h6 and white is simply doing much better. And now after f5 the best possibility for Magnus was to actually play e5. Still white is doing better, knight d2 e2, computer recommended line was rook to c8, threatening to attack this pawn, and after b3 defending we have bishop to e7, and after a4 castle for Magnus and bishop e3. White is slightly better for 1 point by computer evaluation. White has the queenside advantage, but still this is a completely playable position for Magnus Carlsen. He thrives in this sort of positions. But after f5 Magnus simply didn't do nothing of that, and he decided to play queen to d7, which is a weak move. After this bishop b5, immediately trying to attack this knight and trying to weaken the structure around Magnus's king. Smart move, we have bishop to e7, and right now we have rook a to d1 played for Praggnanadha, creating all sort of tricks on this semi-open d file with doubling up this battery. We have rook to c8 played for Magnus Carlsen. Now this is again not the best move, although looking unnatural in this position. The best continuation for Magnus was to actually castle, and after queen to e2, again threatening all sort of tricks. The best way is to retreat your queen from this dangerous d file and this rook. Rook to f2, rook to e8 was a sample line. We have f takes on e6, f takes on e6, and rook d to f1 playing on this f file. Of course this pawn is weak, and white is doing better here in this position. So this was the way for Magnus to continue, but after rook a to d1 we have rook to c8, and now queen to e2, another great move by Praggnanadha, now creating a lot of tricks. And now Magnus again finds the best move of the position, which is e5, to simply pull away this knight. After queen to e2, if you are careless and you decide to castle here, then we have e5, immediately pushing your knight and opening up the position. After d takes on e5, we have a tactic with knight picking up on e6, attacking your rook and opening up a discovered attack on this queen. After queen to c6, you simply lose an exchange. So that is not good. After queen to e2, we have e5 for Magnus. A bishop takes on f6 firstly. Bishop takes on f6 is best, and right now Praggnanadha retreats his knight on c2. Magnus continues with queen to c6, trying to eye this pawn. We have knight to e3, this pawn for now is defended, bishop g5 for Magnus, king to h1, simply removing yourself from all sorts of threats here with queen to c5 and similar stuff. Bishop takes on a3, queen takes on e3, and we have f6 on the board, so Magnus simply wants to solidify his position. b3 is on the board right now, this simply to protect this pawn. By the way, after queen picking up on e3, if you think that maybe taking this is a good thing, this is actually not a good thing, because right now, firstly, white can pick up this pawn here, and secondly, f6 is the most dangerous option here. Right now you have to decide what you will do. G6 is simply not good, because right now queen takes on b6 and your king is kind of in a trouble here already. So because of that reason, Magnus played f6 in this position. We have b3 defending this pawn. We have b5 for Magnus Carlsen. Magnus tried to create some sort of a queenside advancement. Knight to d5, a great move by Praggnanadha. Magnus continues with queen to c5, trying to simplify the position, trade the queens. Of course, Praggnanadha refuses, because queen to f3 is a much better move. You have much more space here as white, and you don't want to trade. We have b takes on c4. Now, just to show another line here, if you decide to pick up with your bishop, then after rook takes on d5 and queen b6, we have c takes on b5, a takes on b5, and queen to d3, now pressuring this pawn, and white is doing much better in this endgame. So we have queen to f3, b takes on c4, queen to h5 for Praggnanadha. You cannot block this, because this is simply a free pawn, because your rook is undefended and pinned. We have king to f8 for Magnus Carlsen, and this is the beginning of an end for Magnus Carlsen, former world chess champion. Rook to f3 for Praggnanadha, with both ideas to cover this rook to c3 if the trade happens, and also to play for rook to g3 here and try and attack this weak pawn here. Bishop takes on d5 for Magnus, rook takes on d5, attacking the queen. We have queen to b6 here, b takes on c4 for Praggnanadha, rook takes on c4, now threatening this pawn, but right now rook to b3 firstly played for Praggnanadha, attacking this queen. Now this queen has to decide where to go. Magnus decided to block this with rook to b4. We have rook d to d3. Now the best for Magnus was to play rook to b5, although this position is much better here for white. Computer already gives this evaluation 2.5. We have rook picks up on b3, rook picks up on b3. Now this queen is attacked. Queen goes on c7, and right now queen to d1 played for Praggnanadha, the right way to continue the game, because right now you are preparing rook to d3. You are also stopping the Magnus's queen from engaging here and maybe trying some perpetual check. We have g6 on the board. Magnus tries, but Praggnanadha rightly finds the move queen to b1. Right now rook b8 check, and then rook b7 check, and your queen will fall is a main threat. Magnus plays queen to c5. Praggnanadha rightly plays rook to b7. Now you might be wondering, I just told you that that was a free rook here on the h8, and yes, indeed it was. But after queen to c5, if you decide to go for this rook, that's perfectly fine. Check, king goes on g7, then you continue with queen to b7 check, king goes on h6, and now, yeah, that's a rook, and I'm threatening checkmate. That's true, but Magnus Carlsen has this resource, queen to c1, king has to go on h2, queen f4 check, and that's a perpetual check. If you push on g3, then here, and we simply draw the game. So you have to be careful. After queen to c5, Praggnanadha rightly plays rook to b7, now simply gaining even more space around this king, also threatening queen to b3. King continued with g takes on f5, and right now Praggnanadha finds the move of the game, the quiet king to h2. Simply with this move there are no longer any check and any perpetual check ideas, and Praggnanadha is ready to play queen to b3 to maybe move this rook and threaten queen to b8 checkmate, and now this king is simply cannot do anything about his desperate position. Magnus still tries with rook to g8, maybe trying to create some sort of a counter threat, but queen to b3, quiet move with the idea of queen to f7 checkmate. Magnus still tries. This is a classical portion of the game with d5, but after rook picks up on h7, this is where Magnus Carlsen pull up his hand and shake Praggnanadha's hand and resign this game. This game is pretty much over. There is nothing you can do. After rook to h7, for example, if you decide to defend with queen to c8 to defend the back rank, then queen to b4 check, and your king has to go to e8, or simply you have to give up your queen. This is checkmate into no matter what you do, so queen to e7 is checkmate. After rook to h7, computer recommends this line, rook takes on g2, you're sacrificing your rook, and right now you can go on g8 for example, but after queen to b7 threatening checkmate. Yes, you can try with some perpetual checks, but there is simply not enough resources here. After all of these checks, after this move, king takes on f6, and this is a checkmate. So after this move you simply have to give up your queen and the game is over. And this is how this brilliant game ended, and this is all I have prepared for you today, guys. I had to show this with you because it just finished. Truly a masterful performance by Praggnanadha, one of the best players in India. Praggnanadha has always been Magnus's kryptonite. He always knows the way to defeat Magnus Carlsen. Especially Magnus decided to pick a risky opening, which is c5, of course, the sharpest opening. Praggnanadha finds the right idea in the opening. He opens up the position, pressures Magnus to go into this wonderful endgame. He avoids the queen trade and wins in a spectacular way with a quiet winner, king to h2. Truly a masterful win by Praggnanadha. And this was all, guys. If you enjoyed this game, please make sure to leave a comment, like, and share this video with other people who enjoy chess. Also, do let me know your questions about this position in the comment. Have you watched this game? Did you enjoy it? Truly masterful performance by Praggnanadha. If you have any questions, do let me know, and we will see each other tomorrow. I wish you a pleasant night. Bye bye.